Yeah, I'm not really sure how to do this today, so it's gonna go a little something like this. I am under a blanket and creating the best audio environment I can for the next episode of Spilling Trends. And but I've got some headlines. Got something juicy for you. I think you're gonna like it. So we're running through the biggest stories and then some lighter stuff, and then AI making the news this past 7 days. April 7th, 2026 edition, we have Sephora under investigation for apparently trying to sell anti-aging products to children. What? I also keep hearing the phrase boots on the ground in the mainstream media, and by mainstream media I mean a particular mainstream source which often criticizes the mainstream media. Guess which one? The No Kings protest making the news, or at least Fox News, with a chyron on the Ingram angle reading, "They can't sing," because that's hard-hitting. Just realizing far too often that it's actually way too easy to just focus on what's happening in America, because nothing happens in New Zealand. Not really. And nothing happening where I am is going to affect the cost of gas. Not really. Alex Jones is calling Trump old and tragic. So that's new, but also not surprising that people are finally spinning around. Even Alex Jones. Wow. And a fun new online game is making waves at a primary school near you. Oh, sorry, elementary school, depending where you are. Or no school if you're in a third world country. But of course those kids won't be playing it anyway because they don't have internet. But 5 nights at Epstein's, wow. Have we, is it even possible to get much lower than that? Of course it is. It's Earth.
All right, you guys, so here's what's happening.
Sorry, that was just me trying to do Candace Owens. I'm just really trying really hard to be popular for being a nut job. I might be a little too sane, or maybe not, who knows. But I'll tell you what is insane. Sephora is being investigated in Italy for allegedly marketing adult skincare, including anti-aging products to children, some as young as under 10. So why didn't the summary just say, like, as young as 10, or what's the youngest? Okay. Well, regulators are concerned the brand, along with Benefit Cosmetics, may be using young influencers and social media trends to push products to children, encouraging what they're calling an unhealthy obsession with skincare, cosmeticorexia. What? I mean, it makes sense. But the issue isn't just marketing, it's also about potential harm. These products aren't designed for children, and authorities say important warnings may have been missing or unclear. Sephora has denied targeting kids and says it's cooperating with the investigation. Oh, well, of course they are. This is one of those things that just keeps on taking me back to just the insanity of a post-Trump 2.0 Earth. I mean, if he can be president again, basically anything's possible. And now, you know, big cosmetic giants are trying to, help children have wrinkle-free lunches? Like, what? Back in my day, kids used to ask for breadstalls for Christmas. Little girls would say, "Mum, I want a breadstall." Whereas in 2026, apparently it's,
"Oh, Mum, I want the anti-aging Sephora skin cream so I can look more like my breadstall." Which I don't think is even a thing anymore because I don't think anyone's bought a breadstall since 2006.
Next story, boots on the ground is being thrown around again in discussions about the US potentially escalating involvement in Iran, and it basically means sending actual troops into the conflict, not just airstrikes or support. On Laura Ingram's show, The Ingram Angle, Fox News, the conversation has been deliberately blurry. She's pointed out that people hear boots on the ground and imagine thousands of soldiers invading, but suggested it could also mean smaller, more targeted operations like special forces. At the same time, there's been mixed messaging with talk of not wanting ground troops while also refusing to rule it out entirely, which has created confusion even within pro-Trump media circles. Okay. This is the accountable, full disclosure part of the podcast where I say I'm not Juliet Jeske. If you want a more detailed breakdown of what's been happening on Fox News this week, refer to Decoding Fox News. The only reason I say that is because I can't actually find a soundbite of Laura Ingram talking about boots on the ground. I just was watching Fox News a few days ago, and that was the recurring theme. There's this whole supercut about boots on the ground over in YouTube at the moment. Of course, Donald Trump was supposed to be the party of no war, and Fox News was a big proponent of every Trump campaign and every Republican campaign since its inception in the 90s or the 80s or whenever the fuck it was, I don't know. And so, of course, now that Trump is doing a war, Fox News is all for it and seems excited to talk about the prospect of boots on the ground, which can only mean one thing in my mind, which is drafting the poor who Trump claims to care about. Amazing. Although from this past week, Laura Ingraham did gift me a delightful soundbite that I can't wait to share with you that just is one of the quintessential examples of Fox News filleting.
Look, I'm not underestimating your concerns. I share some of them. Trump is taking some big risks, but with big risks come great rewards. Eliminating the Iranian threat is a gift to future generations. But in the meantime, look, we'll see how it all works out. But in the meantime, I'm choosing not to panic. After all, no one on God's green earth has a better political sense than Donald Trump. He didn't become president of the United States twice and come this far to blow it all on a lark.
I think what could be considered the most embarrassing thing about this is that Laura Ingraham is not a stupid person, but she definitely commits to a lot of really stupid, really delusional talking points that are just so misguided and so just... oh, God. But the good news is she's still earning her salary, so good for her. I'd be more interested to know just how discerning the Fox News audience is, at least the majority of them. I mean, I know that they appeal to boomers. I know that the ad breaks are all full of those pharmaceuticals and stuff about incontinence and all the rest of it, so I think they know who their audience is. I just don't understand at the moment how this network is being maintained just off the backs of delusional old people. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people watching have got to be laughing, especially by now. Like, does any sane person actually take Fox News seriously? I mean, I watch it because I think it's hilarious. Speaking of hilarious, the most anti-Trump listeners may consider this next thing hilarious. I don't personally. I'm kind of more just frustrated and more just, obviously. Alex Jones has recently criticized Donald Trump, calling him old and tragic. Well, not really. That's just paraphrasing the following soundbite from his podcast earlier this week, which is...
does look sick. And he does babble and, sound like the brain's not doing too hot. And so we just cut bait on Trump and we just mobilize against the Democrats. We need to be sad about Trump. This is not funny. This is not good. But he's gone. And that's it. We need to pray for Trump, that the Holy Spirit touch his heart and loose him from whatever evil control he's under. I'm serious. And I think that's the answer. We need to pray for President Trump. We need to pray for other people to be awakened.
So these comments reflect growing frustration among parts of Trump's base, particularly around messaging, energy, and whether he's still as sharp or as effective as he used to be. Personally, I don't know when he's ever been effective at anything other than assembling his coalition of cunts. It's less about a single insult and more about a tone change. Figures who were once fully aligned are starting to publicly question him, even if they haven't completely broken away. Needless to say, I am not someone who prays, but I will not be praying or manifesting good things. I'm also not wishing for bad things either, because those will come back to hurt me, and naturally I'm a witch and I only cast good spells. The more left-leaning commentators and also the more left-leaning outlets, particularly the girls over at MS Now, were shocked. They didn't really seem to see this coming. I suppose that's just due to not paying enough attention. MS Now is an outlet that I do refer to often. I do like to keep up with them, along with a whole host of other commentators and such, but naturally they are still a cable news outlet. They still have an agenda and a bias, and they probably do a more sane job of giving their point of view, even though they come under fire frequently for being, well, left. But if you're paying any kind of attention to what Trump has promised versus what's actually happening, the war being a pretty big one, and how he's supposed to be anti-war, supposed to release the Epstein files, but that hasn't really worked out. Supposed to be, bringing down costs, everything, basically everything that he's promised this time, in a much more profound way than before, he's just not doing. Apart from the immigration stuff, which is the opposite, it's just too extreme. And yes, we did get the Epstein files, obviously, but that wasn't thanks to Trump. Trump dragged his heels as much as he possibly could. He has done one thing, however, this past week that does show some sense, but I doubt it was really up to him at the end. I think it was probably just him bowing to whoever he considers smart enough to make that decision for him as one of his delegated administration officials. Anyway, I had to write a song about it, and here it is.
This just in, breaking news. Donald Trump has fought Ted Bundy. Well, it actually happened a few days ago. But still, what the fuck? This is so fucking funny. She's so dumb. She's so dumb. What the hell was he thinking? Oh, well, that would imply that Hilly thinks Donald Trump has fired Pam Bundy. Yeah. One down. One more Trump to the go.
Now, not that Fox hasn't been covering Pam Bondi and all that. Of course, they always do, just like with Kristi Noem. I'm just glad that these unsurprising dismissals are happening. It's Donald Trump. He fires people. It's his thing. He's a reality show host that made a name for himself during the 2000s for saying, "You fired." So that's just part of the game. And she had to go because, like the song said, she's so dumb.
I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime.
I still can't get over using deflection to accuse Congress of deflecting. It's just mind-blowingly stupid. I'm still not over it. I don't think I'll ever be over it. Next story, and what's feeling like the most boring episode of Spilling Trends ever. The No Kings protests are part of a broader anti-authoritarian movement pushing back against political figures people see as acting above the law or too powerful, especially in the US. That is a stupid summary by ChatGPT, basically not specifically noting that these No King protests are about Trump. And what's funny is that they've been framed by supporters as standing up for democracy and by critics as performative or disorganized. And what stood out this week was Fox News coverage mocking protesters saying they can't sing, instead of engaging with what the protests were actually about. This was on Laura Ingram's show.
Well, I drove past some of the No Kings foolishness in Sonoma County, California this weekend. They're there and across the country. It seemed like kind of a lame talent show for the old hippie set.
We are resistance grannies. Tearing off their panties. You can't scare us. We're sticking together.
Of course, the nomenclature of the anti-Trump rallies is kind of ironic. Like, what does it even mean? There were all these signs about protecting democracy and got to save our elections. So are they saying that Donald Trump really isn't president and he merely, installed himself as an unelected ruler? Are they questioning the outcome of the 2024 election?
And anyone with a brain can see where she was going with that one. This was while a chyron below her read, "They still can't sing." That's been the focus of the angles lately. The truth is, they just think they're being funny by focusing on the aspects of this that don't matter, like, oh, it's a lame talent show. Like, yeah, I don't fucking care if they're singing. They're protesting. They don't need to be talented, even if they are bad singers, which, by the way, I mean, that was pretty normal crap. I mean, God, I mean, you go through some of those fucking pro-Trump rallies and hear some of the songs they're singing.
There will never be another USA. Freedom won't come back if we give it away. It's time to vote. It's time to pray. Let's join as one. Let me hear you say about Trump. For Trump, let's go. Vote for Trump. Like we vote for Donald Trump.
Apologies for freedom. I can't handle this. our shoulders. USA!
So those hot tracks are from a number of years ago, and that last one was Kids. So not only are Trump supporters just as tacky and lame as the No Kings protesters appear to be, well, at least they're not using children. They're grannies. So, and the thing is, you don't even have to be that apt or that attentive or have that much motivation. You can be as lazy as hell to still spend a few minutes looking up the equivalent of the other side if you're dealing with a narrative by Laura Ingraham making out like, oh, they can't sing. It's just so pathetic. It's like, what's the point in even making up narratives about people singing at protests when you're just throwing rocks from a glass house? Well, the reason is obvious, because Fox News is just entertainment, and it's that simple. Even as Laura Ingraham was starting to rant there about how, her angle, about how, are they implying that Donald Trump was installed? Like he didn't really win in 2024? Just like the retarded narrative that I was spitting out alongside Tucker Carlson and Sidney Powell, 5 years ago about Joe Biden being elected, except doing it on a way bigger and more damaging scale that resulted in a riot that killed a police officer at the Capitol. Like I'm not responsible for any of this. Laura Ingraham. So yeah, about 2 minutes of research and you'll see the hypocrisy is hidden right there in plain sight. Same old shit from Fox News. Nothing new. It's not news. You only heard it here on Spilling Trends. And on to the final story now. It only took about 16 minutes. There's a game going viral called Five Nights at Epstein's, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a parody horror game where you're basically trying to survive on Epstein's island using security cameras and avoiding being, quote, caught. So it uses real images from the actual place. So yes, thank you, Epstein Files, for finally being released, courtesy of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, and God, I forgot the name of the Democrat, but I should remember. It's blowing up in schools, this game. Kids are playing it, schools are trying to ban it, and kids are just bypassing the bans anyway, using VPNs. What's new? Kids know how to use computers better than we do. The whole thing's controversial because it's turning a very real, very dark situation into entertainment. And the AI summary says, that's kind of the internet now. When has that not been the internet? Okay? Bye. So let me know in the comments if you or your child has been playing Five Nights at Epstein's. I'd really love to hear some reviews. I haven't played it personally, but I may play it between now and when I do my next podcast to give it a bit of a hoon. I do some gameplay videos on YouTube under David Gabreel if you're interested in reading a little bit more about that. Also, speaking of reading, the articles I've done, I will be linking in the description also. That's cadeverart.medium.com. That's cadeverart.medium.com. Speaking of other writing, you can also go to wealthforesight.blog to get the latest updates on anything to do with making money online or investing or just getting your crap together financially. A lot of helpful educational resources there. That's wealthforesight.blog or wealthforesight.store just to see what guides are available. Speaking of my projects, I also made a fun jingle for another project that I got done recently. It's quite exciting.
4 ingredients, Anti-Chef's cookbook. 50 plus recipes for people who can't be bothered. Available now on Gumroad under Rare Inspo. Look it up.
I really don't feel like I've been that busy, but apparently I've been pretty busy. So we didn't talk about war as much today, which is nice. Not that I will stop talking about it entirely. I did touch on it. I'm also going to get into some more fluffy headlines because you know how I like to break things up with some cuteness. So let's do a bit of that now. A woman in Australia has rescued over 12,000 animals. So this story was about a woman in Australia who spent the last 15 years running a rescue that's taken in over 12,000 animals, mostly dogs and cats that have been abandoned or abused or just completely neglected. So yeah, abused. It started after her mother died in a domestic violence situation where pets made it harder to leave. So now part of what she does is temporarily care for animals belonging to people in crisis, like hospital patients or abuse survivors, so they don't have to give them up. She runs it basically non-stop with no government funding, huge vet bills, and focuses on the worst cases. animals other shelters won't even take. Rescue puppies adopted into presidential family. 2 lab mix puppies, Boo and Scout, were part of a group of dogs in a Tennessee facility that were at risk of being euthanized due to overcrowding. A rescue organization stepped in, transported them to Delaware, fostered them, and then specifically matched them with Joe Biden and his family after deciding they'd be a good fit. They weren't just randomly picked, they went through socialization, vet checks, and a trial period before being officially adopted. Pitbull puppies go viral and all get adopted. A shelter had a group of pitbull puppies struggling to get adopted, partly because of breed stigma, so they leaned into social media and dressed them up as TV-style characters to get attention, and it worked. Surprise! The posts went viral, people shared them everywhere, and the puppies were all adopted within days, whatever. So what's going on is shelters competing for attention like content creators, adoption driven by visibility, not just need, viral, saved. If I wasn't so jaded, I'd be really pleased to hear all this. Now onto the angle of the podcast, which is actually not going to take up much time because I've spent so much fucking time on all those bloody news stories. God, so still working, still building in public, still working out how to actually do things. Wanted to touch on something that's been bothering me a lot, that I've been writing about a lot, that I need to talk about also. There's this post going around on X, the asshole of the internet. So yeah, we're back to that. You hear X, you think, oh well, Dave's going to be real happy to be talking about this now. But it is important and it does need to be touched on. And I think it's one of my more unpopular opinions, but I don't really care about being popular as long as you hear me. So this post going around from Nario Norfal, Nawal, I actually don't know if that's right, but to be fair, I don't even care. It's Mario Nawal. Looks like Mario Nawal. He's basically a pro-Elon commentator, claiming AI like ChatGPT is causing delusional spiraling, challenging people's political beliefs, well, changing them, and pushing misinformation. So basically, there was a study by MIT or at Stanford that revealed that one conversation with ChatGPT can actually permanently alter your political beliefs. Which is a funny way of saying that will vaguely challenge them, while the person using the AI to have the conversation can simply have a brain and some agency and think critically, which AI is not going to teach it. It will only amplify. But this post was boosted by Elon Musk, which tells you exactly where this is going. It's positioning other AI models as biased or dangerous while conveniently making his own AI, Grok, look like the solution, which is he's always been trying to push Grok as the less biased one. It's pretty obvious, pretty transparent. Anyone with a brain who can think critically sees what this is really about from a mile off. The studies sound dramatic, people changing opinions, chatbots agreeing too much, and claims of so-called AI psychosis, but the framing is doing a lot of heavy lifting because the reality is way less mysterious. AI outputs reflect inputs. This is the point that I have been making ad nauseum. If you push it in a certain direction, it will go there. If you want validation, it will validate you. That's not new technology, that's just human behavior with a new interface. And all the big concerns being thrown around, political bias, mental health effects, environmental impacts, these aren't AI problems, they're existing problems being projected onto AI. So this isn't some groundbreaking warning, it's just noise wrapped in studies being used to push a narrative as usual. Humans do it all the time, as I discussed earlier, using Fox News as probably the quintessential example and the most modern, other than AI. But the basic most important takeaway is that AI is not suddenly making people irrational, it's just giving people a faster way to be what they already are. And that's the angle. I don't even know why I have this segment. It's time for horoscopes. Aries, you'll feel motivated for about 10 minutes. Use it or don't. Taurus, you're still stuck on something, you'll stay there. Gemini, you've changed your mind again. That's the whole story. Cancer, you're taking it personally. It probably isn't. Well, they can't help having cancer. Leo, you want attention. You'll get some. Virgo, you've noticed a problem. You'll overthink it. Libra, you're avoiding a decision, as usual. Scorpio, you're being intense about something small. Capricorn, you're working hard, no one's noticing. Aquarius, you had an idea, it's going nowhere. Pisces, you're in your feelings, you'll stay there. Sagittarius, things are going well for you. Obviously. Guess which star sign I am? So, in summary, we've touched on a lot today, and I have nothing else to add. I don't know how to end it. I could use some kind of summary or some kind of app, maybe a one that's been accused of being a politically biased AI psychosis inducing echo chamber to create a summary that I could read, but I'm just going to leave you with this. Hi, I'm Dave, and I haven't said that yet this episode. See ya.